Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the series premiere of Marvel's Hit Monkey, a great series premiere. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, I'm going to say I'm actually shocked how tonally serious this was, because based on the trailers I was like, oh, I know we're going to get like crazy wackiness, which we do to some extent, and I can expect we're going to get a lot more as the season progresses, but I was not expecting there to be such a serious tone for this episode, because I kept making the example, in my head, I guess I just thought, just with the nature of everything, I kept being like Archer, but in my head, like now watching the episode, I'm like, having only watched the first episode at the time recording this one, because I'm doing these one at a time, it felt like more like Samurai Jack. Yes, a much bloodier Samurai Jack, but toning, because like Samurai Jack has like those humorous moments, but the show could also be like darker and serious when it wanted to be. So I kind of got that tone. I like that we got introduced to like, we kind of got that res media thing of like, okay, let's start at the middle of the story because he's already like, the monkey's already out there killing. And then we rewind 2 months earlier, we get introduced to Bryce, And I love that they also introduce him as like, oh, he's a little bit of a goofball. Like, oh, he jokes about like, oh, I murder people. I'm really good at it. But there's also this level of like, oh, he's actually wanting to hang out with people because he's like the guys that brought his guns and the suitcases and stuff like that to his room. He's like, hey guys, you want to like hang out? We can order a porno. We can watch Love Actually. Or, okay, never mind. Like it was like, oh, and he was like, oh, you Bryce, you dipshit. It's like he was beating himself up about it. Because like, I guess like in this line of work, you don't have much interaction, but he wanted to interact with people more. It's a very lonely job, but it turns out he's hired to kill a someone rising in the political world in Japan, specifically Tokyo. His name is Ken, and he's someone that's fighting back against the corruption. It was interesting to see like Bryce's setup too, like with the takedown and stuff like that. I thought it was interesting because like it was automatic, but I guess it's like, right, you still have to like be good of enough assassin to like, right, the tech is one thing, but it's just a means of helping you, I guess, cover your tracks. But I think more so than anything, it's like you still have to probably account for a lot of like the wind and stuff like that, what you need. It's just like, it's just a tool. It depends on who's behind it. But I love that he's like, what was my password again? What was it? Ask something. It's like, I forgot what his password ended up being, but he ends up shooting and killing Ken. At first I was like, why do you have so many guns? You have multiple targets? It's like, I guess it was like, I think there was like some kind of like shielding, so it was like, right, meant to like knock that down, and then like the bullets were hitting. Like Ken gets hit, and then so does the uncle, who's like his niece is there. She's pretty tight with Ken and everything. The fact is that he got in the arm, he's behind us. You could tell it's like, that's bad guy strategy number one. Like, oh, I'm going to kill this person, but I'm going to look like, oh, they failed to assassinate me. It's like, yeah, they got him dead to rights. How did they miss you? It's like, no, you're definitely behind it. You're 100%. You set up your friend. It's like, yeah, you've had 30 years of history. They talked about it. It's like, oh, like, when are you going to stop? He's like, oh, you've been doing it for 30 years. Why stop now? Like, with their friendship and stuff. So it's like, yeah. And we also get introduced to, like, I guess one of, like, our main characters is going to be the detective who lost his partner, Hiroshi, this episode. Because Hiroshi was kind of like the gung-ho detective, like, oh, let's do this. And his partner was like, no, don't, Hiroshi. But Hiroshi ended up getting killed because he got up the stairs and ended up bumping into Bryce. But what struck me, and I wasn't expecting this at all, once again, the tonally, like, seriousness of it is like, he was feeling bad about it. I was like, wow, I mean, yes, it's a storyline and cliche that gets used from time to time where, like, oh, the hitman or the bad guy feels bad about what he did, so he starts, having a change. Like, yeah, but Bryce didn't necessarily, like, he was feeling it. I don't know whether it's just like, right, when you've killed so many people, it eventually, like, weighs down on you. I mean, there's so many examples of it. The one that kind of immediately comes to my mind, I think of, it's like Into the Badlands. Sonny, who's like the main protagonist of Into the Badlands. He has a similar circumstance. He killed like didn't he kill like, wasn't it like, no, I was about to say 1,000. It's like, he's killed 400 people. Like that, that's a whole thing. But like eventually, like his humanity grew, and he just didn't want to be that anymore. So I think maybe the same thing happened to Bryce, but he's looking at like, oh, a picture of Ken, a picture of Hiroshi, and just seeing the articles, and it just weighed on him. So he was going to get paid, but it turns out the whole thing was a trap. The like whoever hired him wanted to remove a thorn in their side, and that was Ken, because he was rooting out corruption. And it's like, right, the Japanese people will find a way forward after we make you the fall guy for this. So we are planning on hiring you just to screw you over. that old lady that was kind of the in between who kept coughing the entire time. He's like, "Are you want to get that checked?" She's like, "I'm fine." I'm like, "Is there something? Maybe that's supposed to be like why she helped set him up, because she's sick and people promised to like take care of her, maybe her family or something. I don't know." But obviously your boy Bryce is still prepared, so like the bag explodes and he proceeds to take everyone out. And that other guy's like, "Oh, you don't know who you're messing with," and just like execution style, bam. He's like, "Can't wait to meet him." But he got wounded, and just as he's making his trek away, the monkeys find him, which are like, "Oh," and they end up healing him. One in particular kind of mama bird feeds him, like chew stuff up and just spit it in his mouth. But our main protagonist, the monkey, is asking like, "Why are we helping him? This guy's not a good guy. He's a bad guy. He's going to draw much more attention here." It's like, but it's like for them, it's like, what are we supposed to do? Just let him die? The fact is that that's not our way. So if they can help someone, they help them. But he's like, "No, like maybe it's time. The youngins have been talking about it too. You need to step down because you're losing your edge." And it's like, "Well, if you think I'm losing my edge, you can always fight me." But our main hit monkey like backs down. I also wasn't. I don't know why it didn't cross it. Didn't cross my mind to be like, yeah, of course we'd be able to understand what they say. Obviously at this time it's Bryce can't. But he's getting treated like he's getting the pamperment treatment, and obviously for him it's like he's getting ready. He's like, right, get my strength up, and I'm going to kill everyone that had anything to do with this shit plan of like setting me up to take the fall and hire me and then trying to kill me. So he makes all these like snowman examples, and then he starts killing them all. And he said this really insightful thing to the monkey. The monkey was watching him, and it also was about to pick up the gun, and he was like, "Whoa, don't do that. You pick that up in anger, you'll never put it down." I was like, "Oh, that's very like philosophical." I mean, just for his position as a hitman, it's like, yeah, I know better than anyone. What was his reason? Because for him to have that specific line, it means he had to have picked his gun up in anger. Because he had talked about it a little bit earlier about his history when he was like opening up to that guy who's driving around and guys just like completely ignoring him. But it's like he had opened up a little bit about his dad. I can't remember off the top of my head what he was saying at the time, but I thought that was interesting, though. Because we all, like, with getting introduced to Hit Monkey, we do know that he does have anger issues, which I think is interesting. And I guess that's kind of what fuels him a little bit to some extent, is that he does kind of fly off the handle. Because later on, well, after Bryce had left, what he had seen Bryce do, he kind of like ripped through the snowmen in anger, and then he came back, and he was like, "You got to let this guy out of here. He killed those snowmen." But they're like, "Yeah, but they were snow." It's like, "Yeah, they're snow now, but next time they'll be real." And then he started like getting hyped up and angry, and some of the others got in his way, and he kind of hurt them. And once again, he kind of lost himself to his anger, which even Bryce is like, "Whoa, is he getting kicked out?" He's like, "No, I didn't mean for that. I'm sorry, buddy." And so like he gets outed from his home. But on his trek into the mountains, he sees people coming to kill Bryce. And Bryce, they're like, "Oh, did you really think you'd get away?" He's like, "Honestly, yeah. I mean, no, not really. I mean, I came here, then the monkeys were taking care of me." And he was like, "Yeah, so I got a little cocky." And he winks to Hit Monkey and gets lit up. But then the monkeys decide, like, "No, we're going to help you. We're going to defend you." So they throw like snow like balls at them and stuff like that. But they're like, "Oh, really?" And then they proceed to kill everyone. And Hit Monkey gets so pissed, he picks up Bryce's guns and he gets to work, and starts putting them all down. And he's just like consumed. And I love the zoom in and just the pure red and just like him getting consumed by his rage. I think that's such a neat thing to kind of immediately present that, like, yes, he has anger issues, but by then it's like the rest of his people are gone, because all he wanted to do was protect them. And then Bryce, because he felt bad when he saw like maybe Bryce isn't as bad as I think he is, because it's like, right, he didn't deserve to be like put down like some animal or something, which even more so from their case of like, yeah, we're not just like cretins that should be like put down, like they're sentient beings here. Like, no, they're like, my family, my people are gone, like everyone is dead. That's harsh. I didn't realize like everyone was going to die. I thought he was just going to get kicked out of his people. He saves the day, but once he does, they'll look at him like, "Oh, well, you can't be here anymore," and kick him out. I didn't expect everyone to die. That's heartbreaking. And then Bryce is like, that was actually pretty badass. And he was like, "You got to get them for what they did to us." Because I remember that line from the trailer, but I thought he was talking specifically. Now you have context of like, right, his entire family was wiped out all the people he cared about, all the family he knew was wiped out because of these bastards. So, and it's like, right, you and me are connected. You got to get them. You got to do to them what they did to us. And Hip Monkey takes the shades, locks and loads, and goes. But then we get introduced to Bryce again as the ghost. So it's like, how did that happen? What caused that? Was it something in what the monkeys were feeding him? Was it something in the spring that, like, enchanted him? Like, you know, he did say, like, we have unfinished business, and ghosts who have unfinished business tend to stick around. But it seems like maybe it's a thing of, like, because he was so indebted in revenge, and maybe, that, like I said, maybe some mysticism of the mountain, bound him to the monkey, because it seems we'll learn about it as the series progresses, but like he's, you know, ghosts tend to be tied to a location or can be tied to objects, so it seems like he's tied to the monkey, like I said, but we'll get to that more. And he's like, I told you things were about to get weird, so he's just kind of accepting it. So once again, I'm not well versed in this character at all. This is my first jump in, and I'm really digging it so far. I already knew I was going to like it just based on the trailer, but once again, I thought this was going to be a lot wackier and crazy. It's like, it's crazy and wacky in its own regard, but like, it was actually so tonally serious that I wasn't expecting. Because in my head too, because I know he's kicked it with like the mercs from like mercenaries, like Deadpool and like Domino. Like, so like when you're rolling with a character like Deadpool in certain regards, I'm like, oh, you must be one of those type of characters. But for I don't know, like maybe that's them taking that license with the show, or maybe the comic book is the comics are just as serious tonally. I don't know. Like I said, just what we saw in the trailer, it's going to get silly too, but it's just like serious, dark, and bloody situation. Yeah, I guess because I was almost expecting it to kind of be like MODOK. MODOK was like, it had its serious like family moments, but it was just a straight up comedy and a lot of you know, very like Robot Chicken-esque, and where like it's mainly jokes, but it can be a hint of seriousness to it. But this one seems just a lot more serious than I was expecting, which I think is pretty dope. So I'm excited to see what the rest of the season has in store for us. Once again, I'm going to be watching these one at a time and reviewing them one at a time, and I don't know when I'm going to be putting these up. Hopefully, if I have the time to try and put this up Sunday, but I shouldn't be making any guarantees, but because I've got other stuff coming up that I need to like watch and review as well. But you know, still, I'm excited to see what happens in the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.